YouTube and to Facebook. Hello, Caitlyn. How
Amazing.
are ya?
Good.
Hey,
Very, very
whereabouts
well.
are you?
I'm in Kazakhstan, in Almaty. It's not quite the capital, but it's
Wow,
a city in Kazakhstan.
wow. What are you
Yeah.
doing in Kazakhstan?
I'm here on a project with my partner. He's working for the World Health Organization, and I'm here supporting the project he's doing. And then we're also working on another project about
Mm,
LGBTQ rights in Central Asia, particularly in Kyrgyzstan, where
mm.
it's like people in Central Asia are so nice, and I can't say how friendly and welcoming and hospitable people are. But when it comes to LGBTQ acceptance, it's like another story. And it's not something that you really see visibly, like a lot of aggression or anything on the street. It's just that it is invisible because it's not really welcome. Anyway, so we're
Mm.
yeah, my partner started this project in 2015. And so this is kind of like the bookending and drawing
Mm.
it to a close. Yeah. And then
Cool.
we've also been doing a reconnaissance tour.
Wow, and how is that
So
journey?
Vlad is also working on, well, we've been working on together, exploring shamanism across the world. And so we were doing a
Mm.
reconnaissance tour this time around just to kind of check out and see who's practicing, what kind of healing is going on, the kind of flavor of spiritual exploration in this part of the world. So we've been visiting some shamans as well. So it's kind of three projects actually happening simultaneously.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of curious. Is the shaman still at that part of the world, or is it also you have to look
Yeah,
hard to find
it's
them?
yeah, it's not like it's just on every street corner. I think also because I mean, it's kind of the way that it's gone in lots of parts of the world where the monotheistic religions have kind of gained preference, and often the monotheistic religions are not inclusive of other ways of contacting God, contacting power, contacting healing. And so because this area is very Muslim, there's just like not that much, it doesn't feel as safe, I guess, for shamans to be doing their work openly.
Mm,
And also because people just get scared, it's like we get told that
mm, mm.
if you're contacting some kind of power beyond your body and beyond the normal kind of things that you might find in the Bible or something, it's like it must be bad or it must be evil or something. And so people just don't understand. But
Mm,
there's definitely heaps of there's a lot of practitioners here for sure, heaps, and but also like very traditional in that I guess I'm becoming more connected. I first discovered shamanism through my sacred sexual shamanism work. And it's very Western in that it's like everyone's keen to
mhm.
share and everyone's like putting it out there on Instagram and all this kind of stuff. Whereas in this part of the world, it's traditional, like it's mystic secrets. So you don't tell everyone everything, and you don't, like it's a
Mm.
mystery school. It's a secret that you keep. So yeah.
And I guess there's beauty in that, right? Uh, One of the views that people have is we lost something when we mix the sacred with the secular, right? And that air of secrecy may have some value to it, right? So that only people who are ready to receive it will get it, right? So do you think,
Yeah.
or sometimes
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's too available, then it gets watered down? I'm not sure if you agree with that.
No, totally. I mean, I think because I I was keeping secrets myself in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
years ago with like mental health stuff. So for me to release my secrets to the world was a very empowering thing, like my personal secrets about like what was really going on. And then I kind of got into this thing about like, just tell everyone everything. And too much information is the great amount of information. But I'm understanding now that, like, I guess in terms of like maturity, there comes this point where it's like, yeah, like you don't, for example, I don't know, even like with weightlifting or something, you don't want to lift weights that your body's not ready to lift. And so you get given the right weight at the right time. And same with this information. It's like you don't want to receive information that's actually not helpful to you. Or it's like, it's just your ears aren't ready to hear it. So yeah, I definitely think the secret is helpful. That's also why having a master is very good too, or having a teacher. Because then they can kind of sense.
Style of transmission. Yeah.
And they can sense where you're at and give you that information. And also, like as you say, transmission, it's like, it's not even just about something else I've really been discovering lately is like how much I like to put the special spiritual knowledge into my head and I don't let it sink down to my heart. And that's not where this knowledge is supposed to live. How to do maths lives in my head. That's cool. How to trust and understand the way the cosmos works is not about being in my head. It's actually a heart knowledge. And and I really feel like teachers are good at like transmitting a sense of knowledge, not even just like, you know, intellectual knowledge.
Yeah. And maybe
I'm curious about shaman you and your exploration with that too, because
shaman mode.
Oh yeah, look at that. Because you've worked with a lot of teachers in your experience too.
Yeah. And what would you like to know about it?
Just your, well, I guess, like this idea of knowledge and secrets and receiving information as you need it and being able to embody that knowledge, not just know it with your head. Like, what has that journey been like for you?
Yeah. The longer I have done it and the more I continue to do it, made me realize the importance of context. The big thing in especially if one is going really deep. Like I remember one of my meditation teachers, he says, on one hand, it's good that there was a wave of people in the 60s who brought yoga to the States, right? To the United States. But a lot of it got lost. It's like, I think, I'm not sure to what extent this is true, but a lot of yoga, people think of yoga as just asanas and it's just stretching, which loses the whole thing of yoga as union, as transformation. It's a whole thing, you know? It's like a whole way of being. It's not just, so on one hand, you could say, well, it's better to have something rather than nothing, but there's also the saying that a little knowledge is dangerous, you know what I mean, without the whole edifice, the whole links, the whole lineage. There's just this thing when something is practiced for thousands of years, something builds up, and if it's being passed on from one person to another, there's this like power in that. But then you come against the other side of where people want inclusion. So inclusion is amazing, but there's also the importance of exclusion, right? So it's a bit like shadow and light. You need both. You need both inclusion, but also exclusion, because sometimes when they're not ready, it may not be good for them, right?
I wonder if there's an element of like, I can feel like the greediness in me, like, but I just want to know it and I want to know it now and I don't care if I'm ready or not, just tell me. But actually, like, and that's actually part of the journey as well. It's like, okay, just settle down, be patient, trust the process. Like even that is part of the teaching. It's like, stop being so greedy.
But it can also be, it's hard. That's why I remember another nugget of wisdom I inherited is sometimes you can't know what the teacher is doing. A real master, you can't really guess what he's doing or he or she is doing. And sometimes it may seem crazy at the time, but later on you'll say, "Oh, you know what I mean?" That there's some, especially if we're doing a more ecstatic path or more the left-handed path, it can go really crazy. But if you stay with the process, there's something to be given later on. So, so it's also good to keep pushing. But it's like this poem by Rilke, The Man Watching. At the end, it says like, "This is how he grows, by being defeated decisively by greater beings." So it's like in the image in the Old Testament, there are men or humans who wrestle with angels, and they always get defeated, but they always wrestle with angels because something happens in them every time they're being defeated by this big being. So I guess in your case, it's good that you're always wanting it now. You may not get it now, but the fact that you're always reaching for it, there's something in that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I would rather, I mean, I guess ultimately I'd rather that kind of orientation than one that's like lethargic or disinterested. So, and who cares? It's like, I'm always trying to be more perfect. It's like, fuck it. I don't have to be like the perfect spiritual seeker who seeks just enough, but not too much. And it's like, whatever.
Yeah, there's something, again, this is another complexity in that, because there's a whole, especially in social media, there's this wave of, oh, you're fine as you are, accept as you are. That's good, but also don't you want to be better too, right? So there's these two things, right? Like if we stop growing and learning and we say, I'm already done, then that's not good too. But at the same time, if I keep having negative thoughts, it's also not good. So there's that tension, right? I don't think there's one answer for everyone. I think it depends on a person and where they are at their process, right? What do
And
you
I
think?
wonder if it's also like just whatever. I think for me, it's like just allowing my motivation to come from more love, and wherever I'm at to be held with love. And that way it's like, because I can feel like even sometimes when I like get up and do my morning practice or like my physical yoga asanas and stuff, like I can feel there's a part of me that's like doing it because I need to like get, like I feel like my body needs to be more impressive or something. And so I'm still doing the work, but it's coming from a very like contracted place.
Okay, yeah.
Versus like I'm doing this because it makes my body feel good or it's healthy for me, or and then also like, and then just wherever I'm at, it's like just being able to, rather than judging myself on where I'm at, just holding that with more love. Yeah, I think that's kind of like that balance between being okay with where I'm at and also striving for more. It's like striving for more for love and holding where I'm at just in love.
Yeah, and if we back up a bit, it's because last time we saw each other in person, you were in the process of starting this, moving to Thailand, and maybe you could, if you want to share that journey, because at that time you were kind of transitioning your life, right, from being one who gives design thinking workshops to this thing. I don't even know what amazing things you have been doing since then.
So we last saw each other in Sydney when I was there for work, doing design thinking work. And which I loved. Like I loved, and I still do, and who knows, maybe there will be a time that I do that work again. But I'd fallen in love with this man, or risen in love with this man, and he lived in Africa, and so we decided to move to Thailand so that we could live in the same place together. And it was like, it was quite a like I just wasn't quite, I was scared to make the leap, like to go from this like good awesome creative corporate job that pays well and I enjoy, and I've got my friends in Melbourne and this nice house and all the things, but feeling this like restlessness in my soul and in my heart that was kind of like pointing me to something else. And there was this moment where I was trying to feel like, what's the right decision? Like, should I just stay in Melbourne and maybe he can come and live here and stay in my job, or should I just take this massive risk and move to Thailand and go full time with my mindful sexuality work online? And I just remember like thinking, okay, so like feel in my body, like what is it? How do I feel when I think about like even the next year just staying in my job? And I just like felt this kind of I don't know, flatness, I guess. And then I was like, okay, and what do I think about when I think about going out on my own and taking this risk and being in this new country and living like not in the city, which I'd never done before, living in the country. And I just like couldn't stop smiling. And I was just like, okay, this is, you know, like my system, everything in my system is saying yes. And even though my mind is like wondering about a 5-year plan, yeah, there's just like, there's more to my being and more to my intelligence than just my mind. And my everything in my system was saying yes. So yeah, so I decided to go. And it's been
amazing.
Pretty much 1 year exactly.
Yeah. Oh wow, it's good timing, this talk.
Yeah.
And this conversation.
Anniversary, totally.
So,
totally.
Yeah, and it just demonstrated, you know, there's a lot of talk about embodied consciousness, and you just showed us how you use it in making a major decision in your life. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And of course my mind as well, I had to definitely do some planning and assessments and all this kind of stuff to help my mind feel on board with it as well. But yeah, like, yeah, just in terms of like, if I could live each day with that feeling of either like the feeling of what would it be like to stay at work, or what would it feel like to go out on my own, like I just wouldn't want to live a year feeling it in the work way, you know, like I just felt this like heaviness and flatness and just no real like enthusiasm for making stuff. But yeah, when I felt into the other side, it was like, yeah, I could definitely live with that feeling. That would be nice. And not that
So
I'm just like chasing like the pleasure and the high feelings, but it was more just like that checking in with the yeah, like of the question, like what would actually serve me? What does my like higher, more my wiser self really want here? Yeah.
And was the transition smooth, or was it a roller coaster? And has it stabilized after a year? What do you think? Or what do you feel better? What do you feel?
Wow, that's a good question. I think and feel that there's been, like, I thought that I was going to Thailand to like really start this new career and live in this home with this man that I had met and found great love with. And so I guess like, and this is, I suppose my mind as well was like, oh, okay, so that's what we're going to Thailand to do. Got it. All right, we can do this. And then actually my experience of the last year has been more of like an unfolding of my soul. And with that means, and when I say an unfolding of my soul, I mean like, I've just been understanding how much my ego has been at play this whole time. Like my soul as well, but my ego has kind of taken hostage so much of my soul's great ideas and my soul's kind of offerings, and then for survival, for fear, for wanting to be liked, for wanting to impress people. It'll like gather up all of my soul's gems and try and put it into this castle that people will be impressed by. And so that's what I've been noticing over this last year, as I've been feeling more and more of my heart, feeling more and more of my soul, and noticing this distinction between that and what my mind is doing, and where my motivation comes from, like more of a survivalist, fiery kind of motivation, or something that's coming from like love and trust. And so I feel like this year I've also had a few experiences with Iboga, and also did a Bwiti initiation with a shaman from Gabon. And if there's anything that's going to really undress your ego and wash you clean, or even just expose yourself to yourself, it's experiences with those plant medicines. So I feel like in terms of stabilize, I wouldn't say it's stabilized. I'd say it's been purified. Yeah, and I'd say, and I'm still in the process as well. Like and even just on this trip, I feel like you asked me, what have you been doing? What are the, and I told you about the 3 projects. But I guess like really the main project that's been going on is, like what's been happening in my internal world, and these kind of new levels of understanding my soul, and and that I'm safe to, I don't know, just not be so much in survival. I'm still figuring that. I'm like, I'm getting that. I wouldn't say that I'm like totally, on it with that yet, but it's been one of the big unfoldings in this trip. Because like when you travel and you've just got so much time to think, or think, but just spend because there's no Wi-Fi as well, and so I just kind of sit there and like with my eyes closed and just feel and meditate and sense, and then receive these little I don't know, like gems. And anyway, so I've had a lot of time for that in the last month. It's been really nice.
Because there's no competing, so your attention is fully inward. I get it. And so you see more of yourself. And I was just thinking, so what you're seeing, that like your ego is that, and it's trying to protect itself, but there's this bigger soul, and the ego is afraid to expand. Is it that way, or is it afraid that it will get annihilated and just disappear into the vastness of the soul? Is that what's happening, or is it something else?
Well, I guess the way that I've been understanding it is like my soul is here, and it's eternal, and it's directly connected to God. It is God. It's like a spark of God. And I'm here, and that I, Caitlyn, am not actually Caitlyn, that I'm my soul within, and then this shell with flesh and a name and skills and an accent. It's just the like the shell. And during my life I've acquired, great attributes and skills and humor and whatever. And then I've also acquired, I don't know, traumas and fears and beliefs that I'm only good enough if I earn a certain amount of money or whatever. And so my ego, it's just trying to do its best to make this thing keep surviving. And I guess what I'm understanding is that the more that I kind of continue in those patterns, it sort of strangles and suffocates what my soul is actually here to do. And so my real work is not my design thinking or even my mindful sexuality business. It's truly just to heal whatever I've acquired in this personality that is blocking my soul from expressing itself. And so I don't think it's necessary that my soul, and I guess my soul is just like I mean, my ego, I guess, is like I mean, I'm not an expert as well. Like I'm just, this is just what I've been discovering. And yeah, and so I love your perspective on this as well, because I'm like forever in awe of your spiritual wisdom. But yeah, and so it's not that my ego is afraid of death necessarily. It's just afraid of everything. It just wants to survive. Yeah, and I guess it's like growing up these parts of me that's afraid to trust things beyond me, or beyond me, beyond my physical self.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that maybe 2 weeks ago, I just had this realization after listening to some podcasts that, in a weird kind of way, so this guy, he was talking about like the new, how to create wealth in the 21st century, right? Our century. And he's saying that the best way to actually create wealth now is just being yourself. It's so amazing because you will have no competition.
Yeah.
Because no one can be exactly like you.
Yes.
And if you're not competing with anyone, that it makes you're not always when you're competing with people for the same position, for this, you're trying to be this objective role, then it's like a loser. You're killing each other for scarcity. Whereas if I'm just being Oliver James and you're just being Caitlyn, and you can generate income by just being you, then you have no competition, because no one can copy. Some can copy what you do, but they can't copy your whole life history, your genetics, your epigenetics, your traumas. It's all part of it. It's just an interesting way. And he gave like examples, like people like Joe Rogan, who was just being himself, talking to people in his podcast or doing his MMA commentary or his comedian. Like even his combination of the things he do is very unique. That's why no one can compete with him, because it's, even if you try, it would be like it wouldn't work. But by just focusing on what is on the soul, of my soul, what am I meant here to do? We can now have a way to be abundant in that, because of we've come to this new century. It's like we're trying to get, another perspective I had is we're trying to get the best of the 19th century and the 20th century. So in the 19th century, there's a lot of everything was like local, and everything was like bespoke. People had no jobs. People just had trades, or they just farmed, but there was no scale. And then in the 20th century, it's all about scale, factories, and then jobs, so that you can reach millions of people. But now we can have both. We're in, like, I don't know, like this, when we save this, our conversation, it will live in the cloud, and who knows how many people can see it, and it's there, and it can scale, but it's very personal as well, right? Like we're not in a TV network, like I need to have an earpiece, and I need to have a tie, and I need the producer at the back is saying, "Oh, you have to ask this." We can be authentic, but it can scale, which is amazing, right? I think that's the next bit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I haven't thought about it like kind of sandwiching the two centuries together, and then that's kind of where we're at now. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think there's beauty in that, because I don't know, there's a dangerous idea that history and everything is linear and evolution is linear, in the sense that everything that came before is bad. We're better now. Let's erase everything. Now, like we still have reptilian genes in us. You know what I mean? We still have bacteria, like our mitochondria is
Yeah.
actually a bacteria. So it's not like, oh, we're humans now, forget about the microbiome, but we're also
Yeah.
microbiome. So it builds on each other, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I guess that's the thing, like, as much as we can, taking the stuff that supports us and letting go of the stuff that doesn't. If only we could do that with plastic. I hope that there can be one day where it's like, oh yeah, back when humans used to use plastic.
I think we're getting there. Like, remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember CFCs.
Yeah.
That,
Carbon fluoro,
but now we've got rid of it.
chlorofluorocarbons.
Chlorofluorocarbons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
True.
put a hole in the ozone layer. Now there's like almost zero CFCs. I hardly see. Actually, I haven't seen CFCs for maybe a decade now or something. So we did that, right?
Yeah. Plastic's an interesting one though, because
So
also
we can,
like
I think,
traveling, I've been to many different apartments in the last month. And I guess apartments in countries that are not particularly wealthy,
yeah.
compared to in the West. And so, and a number of these apartments, it's like they're old Soviet apartments, but they've been refurbished. And like everything inside the apartment is plastic. It's got a wood grain, but it's fake. You know, like even the handle, you think it's metal, but it's plastic. And yeah, and like we were driving into the mountains yesterday with one of our friends here who's a Kazakh woman, and she was just pointing to all the new building developments that have gone up, and she's like, yeah, I've seen these, like if you go to the edge of town, there's also more there, and they're, you know, 10 years old, but they're already falling apart because they're all made out of plastic, like the exteriors are plastic. And yeah, it's like kind of shocking how even the most, I don't know, like intimate and obvious materials around us that we would expect to be just natural are now plastic. It's kind of like picking up an apple, which you just expect to be an apple, and then taking a bite and realizing it's plastic. It's like, what? I can't handle it. And like, yeah, and like, if there's one thing that really, really grinds my gears, it's fake plants. Like when people have got fake fans. I think it's because it feels like it's the recipe for the end of our time. Do you know what I mean? Like, when even plants are plastic, like there's nothing human or natural or alive about that, you know? It to me, like my soul just goes, ugh.
You saying this reminds me of one of my favorite writers, Milan Kundera. I don't know if you read him. He's
I
a
know
Czech
of him. I haven't read
writer.
I haven't read him.
Yeah, and in one of his novels, he wrote about this. I think it's called Kitsch, Soviet Kitsch. You know, like it's like approximating the thing, but it's not the thing. Yeah, and it's funny. Like it's interesting. Like it's also in philosophy they call it the simulacrum. You know, you're simulating instead of the real thing. We're just simulating it, and then we get lost in the simulation. We're not even talking about virtual reality here. Yeah, we're just talking about fake plants, fake fruits, and and which might also be interesting because now because of this we might value real things more. I'm curious to see your experience there in Kazakhstan and where you're traveling. Do you see layers of old history, Soviet, and now capitalism like piling on top of each other? What do you see there?
Sorry, can you say that question again?
Like, do you see like layers of history where you are? Like, for example, in Kazakhstan, do you see like the old tribal culture is still there, but it's been overlaid with when it was part of the USSR, and now there's a bit of capitalism on top, but although it's moved through time, all the things are still there, but in its own amazing way. or layered way. What do you see? I'm just curious. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess because I'm here so briefly as well. It's like I ask a lot of questions around that kind of stuff being here, because also like it's so far into me, like I don't have a handle on Soviet life, and like what was that like, and what is it like now? Probably the main things that I see is like, well, actually, like I was talking about it with my partner, he's Russian, and he's like late 30s, so he was there for like a decent chunk of the Soviet Union and was there when it split up. And just talking about the difference between what it's like to grow up with that in your living memory, and then people who are born, you know, who are like 20 now, who are born in these areas, they only know about it in word. They only know about it as stories. They've never lived with that kind of communism. And so just this kind of like, and the kind of nostalgia that can arise as well, because in many ways it's like aspects of that Soviet time were awesome. Like everyone had a house, everyone had education, and everyone had education available to them. Like in Tajikistan, for example, where we were in this journey, there was a time when that wasn't available to everybody, or like, and it still isn't. Like in Pakistan. But then when the Soviets came in, they were like, no, education should be for everyone, you know? So there's like, elements of it, like being like, damn, that was actually kind of good. But also we paid for all of that with our freedom. This is this one woman we were talking to yesterday. So even though we all had education, we couldn't go anywhere. We were like educated, but stuck. So it kind of like, I don't see it so much in like, I mean, there's like all the old Soviet buildings and stuff, and mixed with, you know, consumerist culture as well. But probably more just this kind of like this change in people, and also just in these generations of people who will only know it in memory, or who will know it in memory, and others who will only know it in stories, which is very, and so what that does as well to what people are willing to tolerate as well. Like, for example, there's a couple of countries, well, a few countries whose prime ministers and presidents are kind of self-elected, and they have elections, but there's like a 99% vote for this one president. And for people who've lived in communist Soviet time, it's like that's really normal. That there's just like this kind of like politics of like power over, we're just going to manage our shit and do it ourselves, and you'll just kind of obey us. And then, but for people who are not like used to that as like a whole collective of countries being on board with that kind of behavior, it's like, it's kind of just becoming less and less, I don't know, like just can't make sense of it. So yeah, I feel like in the next, it'll be interesting to see how these countries move in the next 10, 20, 30 years, which is kind of true of the whole world, I guess we could say. Like, what is going to happen to this planet?
Yeah. And I could also relate that to the personal journeys, because like if I'm transforming to something new, so I have this existing structure. If I want to transform, I need to break this and then create a new structure, right? And when I'm in after I've broken my existing structure, and then the new structure is not yet there, there's this really can be dangerous, can also be promising moment where I could go back because like it's too scary, or I could move into the new structure. And it's the same, I think, with, so I think when people think, oh, we'll just liberate the people, like when all this warmongers, like, oh, we'll just liberate. Look what happened, you know. You just don't get rid of the dictator, and then once you get rid of it, the whole
Everything will
thing
be
will
fine.
work. It will be a democracy. You can't,
Yeah.
because there's no infrastructure,
Yeah.
right? I think you need to build infrastructure first.
And I think
Yeah. So, and I think that's how China was able to slowly do it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, like China opened up trade, and I think slowly they will open up the politics as well, but they can't do it like that because it's so many people. They can't just, all right, now we're gonna vote and there'll be no more strong ruler. But maybe it takes a lot of time if you're ruling 2 billion people. It's too many people, right?
Imagine that.
So you need to build up the infrastructure. Maybe, I don't know. I really don't
It's
want
also
that job to be ruling that
it's also been
over so many
interesting.
people.
I know. Imagine that. Like, yeah. Imagine trying to sleep.
Yeah, like I can't even tell either one person what to do, let alone everyone's like, what are we gonna do? I don't know.
But it's interesting too, because I've also never really been in
It's
countries that have controlled democracy so much. And so like we arrived the day, I think the day of elections, and then the following day was like the celebration of this new president. And they knew, because obviously it's a forged election, there would be protesters, but so there was just military everywhere, and Facebook was shut down.
Oh, really?
Gmail, like all messaging services were impossible to use because they just didn't want anyone to be protesting. And it was like that the whole week, and I had clients and I had stuff, and I was like, sorry, I can't call you because the president doesn't want me to talk to you right now. But yeah, so just like this kind of control. I'd never experienced it. It felt really, and like the way that the city felt was just really weird.
How did you feel? Did you feel scared at all, or?
Not scared, but more just kind of suffocated, and I don't know. It's really, and even like being in different countries where like sexuality is not as celebrated or welcomed, like free sexuality. Like in Tajikistan, for example.
Cover up in places there?
In Tajikistan. Not. I mean, only if I went into sacred places would I cover my hair. I didn't need to. It was okay if you're a tourist, you know. But like just any exposed parts of my body, or even like you can't even really smile at men because they just think that it means something else, and so you just have to like look down, and just like this feeling of, I don't know, like it really made me, like, as much as I complain about the West and complain about like how much we mess things up, and how, you know, like, and in these countries people are so friendly and hospitable as well, like always inviting us to eat with them and like paying for our taxi and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, just noticing, just appreciating the West for our freedom, you know, and like, and our kind of mature, in many ways, like mature the way that we relate to each other, in terms of sexuality and like the more base chakra stuff. And also
and I think women in the West have a lot of freedom that they take for granted. I think some take for granted.
Oh my God, yes. And I didn't really notice that.
Yeah, it's only until you get to go somewhere else and you go, wow.
Absolutely. And then also like the democratic freedom as well. And yeah. And then also all the things that we don't have in the West, like this kind of hospitality and welcoming of people who aren't from here. It's like, it's something that I definitely want to take with me. That kind of, and like, for example, like every time we'd get into a taxi, like there's lots of shared taxis, and so you'd be riding with strangers, and if a stranger gets in and they've got a bag of chips or something, they would definitely offer you, and if they've bought an ice cream, they've also bought an ice cream for you. And so like just this idea of like preempting the friends that I'm gonna make, and like the family, the like 5-minute family I'm gonna have as I'm in the car before I jump out. It's like, yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Just ride sharing without the Silicon Valley unicorn.
Oh
This is
yeah,
natural,
right.
organic ride sharing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Cool.
special. But yeah, today's our last day here actually. Or we leave tomorrow early
Ah,
morning.
so what's next for you?
We're going to Portugal to visit some of Vlad's family, and then
Oh, nice.
take some of them on a little holiday to Morocco. So it's been a while since
Wow.
Vlad's seen his family, and I've never met them. So yeah,
Are you excited?
yeah, very much. I've also never been to Portugal, so
Yay.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
and what
I've been
about
to
you?
Lisbon.
What are
It's
you?
a
Are
beautiful
you
city.
finished with your creative design? Wait, what was
I'll
your
be finishing
degree
this.
called?
I'll be, it's two degrees. So one is product design, and the other
Uh-huh.
is creative intelligence and innovation.
I love it.
I'm finishing this year, so I'm on my last semester,
Cool.
and then we'll see what happens next year. It's gonna be an interesting year.
Mm. Yeah, wow.
Mm.
And what's your final, like, what's your project for the final stretch?
I don't know yet. We're gonna do it this coming semester.
Oh, yeah. Are you on holidays at the moment?
Yeah, yeah. I'm in between semesters,
Oh, good. Nice.
so it's gonna be interesting because I'm not, you know, how it is when you're and I'm now on another crossroads and I need to consult all of me to see what's the next
Mm,
without being too hasty about it and being too, again, as what you mentioned, without being driven too much by survival mode and fear. I think this it's always
yeah,
there.
totally. And do you have any like sense so far about what's kind of attracting you for next steps? I mean, it's
What
like
I'm,
you've got so much time between now and then, and so many things will happen. But yeah, do you have any kind of like, oh yeah, maybe this?
yeah, I'm just looking at what are the things I actually enjoy doing and where I that can have that can be valuable. And one thing I'm noticing is I like things like this, what we're doing, like whether it's whether it's um, broadcasting like this or meeting in the cafe. I like interfacing with people, so there's something with that,
Mm, mm-hmm.
and and maybe part of me in the past keeps on, yeah, it's complex inside because I also tend to like to be alone and read and do stuff, but I also like people, so it's like so I need to, it seems like it's going to be creative. It involves people, but also involves deep dives into things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhere
I
in
mean,
that
that
space
sounds that
where I could
sounds
create something.
I mean, it sounds like a kind of like a natural way of doing your work anyway, right? Like with the design process where you go deep into things, and then you're also
Yeah,
speaking
you
with
talk to
people,
people.
and then having, I think for me as well, like I'm really sensing side projects. And well, side projects is not even like the right word, but just
Mm.
multiple projects on, and so it's not just like you're
Passion
doing one
base,
thing, you've got lots going on.
Yeah, yeah. And a major decision I had to make is: do I work for someone, or do I try to, like what you did, cast out and be on my own, be my own business, or work for someone else again? So we'll see. I kind of been enjoying this freelancing, but there's not much money at the moment, so I need to work that out. It's gonna
I guess it
be an
depends what you're
interesting
doing
year.
as well. Like if you're with human-centered design
Yeah,
agencies, I'm sure that there'd be a bunch. But yes, we can talk about that offline as well if you want.
And yeah. And I was thinking, just focus on this last semester, make it really count, and then I have plenty of time to do all this searching after it's all done, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Cool.
exciting. Like,
How are you going
kind
for
of
time? Do you
where-
need to go? Yeah.
Yes, actually, I've got another mountain date coming up.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do this another time again. And on your, it would be nice to catch up after when you're on holidays or in another part of the world, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any last things you want to say?
What do I want to say? Oh, I want to say how amazing older women are, especially older women who are connected to God. Like, so the shamans that we've been meeting, and mostly older women, or older women, and I just can't say how much I appreciate their, like, they just don't give a shit about what you think about them. And so they just say exactly what it is that's on their heart and exactly what they see and exactly what they're feeling. And yeah, I've been reading this book, and one of the passages, this guy talks about why nature and temples and art are so transfixing to observe. And there's something about like the authenticity that's there, that it's just this like purity. Like, for example, a tree, it's not trying to make you think something about it or convince you that it's cool or whatever. It just is. And same with temples. They're just there to connect with something beyond themselves. And same with great art. And I really feel like I witnessed that in these women, this like just this purity and I really do feel like when I'm with them, I feel like I'm looking at art, like, you know, that or an amazing mountain or something where, you know, you just behold it and you're like, wow, oh my God, holy shit, this is amazing. Like,
I'm just curious.
And
when you tune into them, do you feel like they're connected to some? Because I think I don't know if it was Steiner or someone else made up. Their vision was the next wave of enlightenment and incarnation of spiritual beings will be through the Slavic people. I don't know. Do you get a sense of that? There was one of those teachers did predict that the next, you know, when spiritual beings reincarnate and they come in waves, you know what I mean? And someone said it will be among these Slavic people. I don't know did you get a sense of that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think if I can sample more countries around the world and like healers of this type around the world, maybe I'll be able to understand more. But I definitely feel a really, really strong connection, like the connection that people have. Not everyone, because, you know, but the healers that we've met, like, yeah, big time. And maybe also like, because I've got a few teachers as well, and one's 41, one's like 63, and the other one's like in their 60s, and it's like, and I just so value having older people. Just like, and sort of like the beginning of our conversation, we're talking about masters and teachers, and just to have that transmission, like, it's like, yes, it's what they're saying, but it's just them just being in their presence. I'm like, oh wow, I'm receiving so much right now. And yes, I really enjoyed that on this journey, like just meeting these, they're kind of like the major points for me on this whole journey. It's like meeting these women. Yeah, so I hope that we'll come back. That's the idea, that we'll come back.
Cool.
And continue work with them.
Maybe that's a future. Maybe that's a future for education. More of a less factory classroom style and more apprenticeship where you actually
wouldn't
with
that be
someone.
cool? I mean, I guess that's like, how maybe it was back in the day when people learnt, they didn't go to a school outside, but they learnt from their parents, you know, like the parents and the grandparents were the, yeah.
Yeah, or other craftsmen. There was a system like in the old time
True.
with the
Yeah,
guilds.
yeah.
You have a journeyman, and then you learn. Yeah, and I kind of understand because a lot of the things we do we can't really
Yes.
codify because it's in our
Yeah.
body. You can't really write it down. It's in what, or you can't remember to write it down because it just comes naturally. But if you're in the
Yeah.
presence of that person,
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
It's good to hear.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. And it's so nice
Yeah,
to
thank
just
you.
see you again.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be traveling next year. Who knows? And we could meet
Yeah.
somewhere. That'll be so fun. You know.
I'm sure we can manage that. I'm sure we can manage that.
Yeah. Are you heading back to Thailand eventually, or are you moving
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah. In a
being
month.
nomadic the whole time
No,
now?
no. I'm not nomadic. I like to travel, but I definitely like to be at home. I'm like a
Cool.
cat. Like I love to go out on little adventures, but I definitely like to just like lie on the couch and do my stuff.
Awesome. Maybe
Yeah.
next time we do this, we can talk more. We can unpack more the Iboga stuff because that will take
Oh, I'd love that.
a whole session. I think
Yeah,
more
yeah.
deeper. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to ask about it because I knew it would be like a big thing. So I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
just talk about it in small chunks. So maybe we could
Mm-hmm.
go deeper next time on that.
Good idea. Yeah, let's do that. We'll chat about Iboga next time. All
Okay.
right. Well, enjoy the
Thank
rest of
you.
your evening.
You too. And give my regards to Vlad.
I will. I will. Mwah.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Mwah. Bye.